What's up, A to Z Sports Nashville? Happy Thursday morning. More importantly, happy first day of March Madness to you all. We don't recognize the play-in games. Today is when the real magic starts. Hope you guys are amped up for what is one of the seminal sports days in the sports calendar. Very exciting. We are going to talk about football this morning, though, here on the A to Z Sports Morning Show. And I am your host, Easton Freeze, once again abandoned by Austin, who's been gone for a while, and Sam once again running out on me to get married or something. I don't know. Under normal circumstances, that would be quite frustrating, but it gives me an opportunity to bring in my man, Ryan Roberts, so that we can talk about nerdy draft stuff because it's that time of year. And Ryan's the man when it comes to those things. And so I'm excited to have him here, excited to have this morning's conversation, which is the wide receiver and the edge positions for the Titans. It is officially time for us to talk about how the Titans are going to or could address the wide receiver and edge positions in the draft at 35 overall on day 3. They're going to have to hit on some day 3 steals, some day 3 gems. Can we identify those guys? Can we figure out who is the best option for them at 35, depending on who is there? All of the multiverse of options. We're gonna try to cover all of it this morning on the show. Ryan, I'm looking forward to it. Good morning to you. Tell the people what they got to do.
Yeah, good morning to everybody. Of course, before we get started on this great show, we're going to talk about NFL draft. We're going to talk about Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk wide receivers, edge, and everything in between. Want to ask you all, please don't forget to share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that share button in the bottom right corner and get it on your feed. If you're watching us live on YouTube, take that YouTube link, send it to a friend in your life or one of your group chats. Just find the Titans fan you know and let them know that ADC Sports is talking not just about quarterbacks this morning. We're talking about edges. We're talking about wide receivers. We're talking about fulfilling this full potential of the 2025 roster. You'd also repost this on Twitter or X to help spread the word. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and leave a like on the show before we get going here on a wonderful Thursday morning.
Yeah, as one commenter said, Jonathan White, I like this. Like the show, 5-star Google review, share the show, email the show, do the show's taxes, and then carrier pigeon the show. Yeah, do the show's taxes would be nice. If somebody wants to do the show's taxes, I don't know what taxes this show has. I've not been on the show since last tax season, but this comment reminded me that I should probably go do my own taxes. So
you haven't done your taxes yet? You haven't done your taxes yet?
I've not finished them. I plugged the info in and did the whole thing, but haven't done the TurboTax, hit send, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm bad about that. But you know what? We got time. We got, 3 weeks? We're in good shape. 4 weeks? Psh, it's plenty of time. Don't worry about it. Probably should get on that, though. Not right now. Right now, we're going to talk about the wide receiver and the edge positions. And let's get the show started officially now that we've bantered long enough. Welcome into the A to Z Sports Show live on a Thursday morning, every weekday morning at 8 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter feed at ATOZ Sports. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage every single day of the year. Also, leave us that 5-star Google review for A to Z Sports. We got to thank our sponsors for making the show happen and helping you guys out. Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying experience in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine, boneandjointtn.org, and our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. All right, now that we've covered tax reminders, now that we've covered the show obligations at the top, Ryan, we can officially nerd out on what is the biggest question remaining for the Titans at this point. And that is, how do they address these two key positions of need? So we came into this offseason with the needs pretty clearly defined. Obviously, quarterback was in a class of its own. Got to figure out who's going to be your quarterback. We have figured out who's going to be the quarterback. It's going to be Cam Ward. And so that's going to be addressed on a Thursday night, 5 weeks from now. Beyond that, we had 3 big positions that I think most people highlighted as the next top needs, and that was tackle, edge, and receiver. These were the things that we've been talking about really since last October. As hey, the Titans really got to get better at these positions. Receiver, not so much in season last year, but tackle and edge absolutely have been a problem since basically the beginning of the Brian Callahan experience here in Tennessee. And so that's another thing that we saw as the clear defined issue coming in that they have addressed 1/3 of, right? They have gone and gotten the tackle They have gone and spent $80 million on Dan Moore from Pittsburgh in free agency, who is going to be their left tackle. J.C. Latham is going to anchor the right side, and they have really fixed on paper. They have patched all the holes on the offensive line, right? On paper, they're in good shape there. They've gotten it to a point where they can essentially, somebody in the Titans building told me we can just quit thinking about offensive line now for a while, which is nice in Tennessee because we've not had a situation like that in a while where 5 for 5, all these guys, there's not a glaring weakness. Depth is still going to be something that they need to address because you never, rarely do you finish your season with those 5 guys healthy and good to go. But right now, the starters are in good shape. At edge and receiver, though, these are still positions that they have to address. Edge, I would say, is less of a question just because the Titans have added one splashy is the wrong word. One signing of some significance in Draymond Jones this offseason, who is a classic D end, but he's going to be able to play edge for you. Played edge almost exclusively for the Seahawks last year. Had I think a pressure rate in the 12% range, which is quite nice. You can get by with that, and so him and Arden Key, I think, create a nice landing spot for a young edge that they're going to need to add somewhere in the draft, which we're going to talk about today. That's the other thing about the edge position that is pretty easy to understand is, hey, this edge class, very deep, shouldn't have at 35, even on day 3, shouldn't have an issue, but really at 35, shouldn't have an issue finding a guy who can be an impact player, maybe even a starter day 1. And so not a lot of concern there. At the receiver position, however, Ryan, things are a little dicey. Things are a little strange. And I wrote at A2ZSports.com 3 days ago about how the Titans, we keep talking about this Commanders model of they like what the Commanders did last year. They're not, they're not expecting to have the same outcome the Commanders had last year, but the way that they went about that rebuild, they like. In particular, the way that the Commanders had, I think, 26 free agent signings, and 21 of them were 1-year contracts, and they were patient and prudent and built in a way that allowed them to address their issues through the draft. And the Titans are doing that. And a lot like the Commanders, the one similarity that is unfortunate, but is true right now, is that the Commanders last year, the biggest issue they really weren't able to address is the receiver position, right? They had Terry McLaurin, and he's awesome. We know this. But beyond him, it was a platoon of deeply uninspiring guys, rookies and 1-year guys in the Van Jefferson range of fine. And they're going to have 300 to 500 yards apiece, depending on how you use them. But none of them are really going to change. Noah Brown's not changing your life. And so that's kind of where the Titans are right now with Calvin Ridley and a bunch of And there's not a lot of obvious options in actually, there's really no obvious options left in free agency. There weren't really any to begin with.
Hey, Stephon is out there, on a scooter probably. Or something
yeah. Stephon. Yeah, I mean, Tyler. There's some old folks. Tyler Lockett is
Robert Woods. He was a Tennessee Titan at one point, right?
Titans legend, bring him back. Yeah, that went so well the first time. I mean, I mentioned Tyler Lockett. Those other 2 guys you named, I'm not crazy about. Tyler Lockett, I think, could make some sense for this team if he's cheap. But people keep saying Amari Cooper, like Daniel in the comments. How expensive is he? Yeah. Maybe. The point I'm making here, as I'm rambling to start the show, trying to set the table for us. I'm just trying to set the table for our conversation here. In the draft, and here's where I'm going to bring you in the chat into this, Ryan. In the draft, there are going to be opportunities for the Titans to address wide receiver. And this wide receiver class, to me, is not as bad as it was initially made out to be by folks in December and January. I think it's a fine receiver class. I think it's pretty average. And an average, receiver draft class is going to have some guys on day 2 and day 3 that are going to be impact players. And when the bar is as low as it is for the Titans, there are opportunities, brother. If you're a rookie, come to the Titans, you might get some serious playing time right now.
Absolutely.
They're going to have to find somebody at 35 or on day 3 to address that position. And so the question now becomes, with only one, we know that there's a possibility of them trading 35 and getting some additional picks. Let's say they don't, because trades are hard. You got to have a partner, right? Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So let's say for whatever reason, 35's the pick. They're not moving. They're going to have 35, and the next pick's going to be 103. Let's go ahead and ask the question off the top. What is the more important position for the Titans to address at 35 overall? Is it wide receiver or edge? What's the most important position for the Titans to get at 35 overall? I'm sending this question in the chat. Want to hear you all's thoughts in the chat. What is that most important position for the Titans to get at 35 overall? Receiver or edge? Gonna let some questions, or just some answers to that question percolate in the chat for a moment while people are answering that question. And Ryan, while you're thinking about your answer to that question, I'm going to tell you folks about our fine friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee. Don't fumble on your recovery. Head on over to the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee. They're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine at boneandjointtn.org. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust, and the Bone and Joint Institute are your friends to make that happen. They're located in Franklin with over a dozen specialists who can help you through any type of injury. They have a state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help you with your recovery. Bone and Joint can do everything under one roof for your convenience. They have a clinic, testing, imaging, surgery, rehab. It's a one-stop shop over at the Bone and Joint Institute. So to schedule an appointment today, go to boneandjointtn.org.
And before we get to the chat, because I see a lot of great answers already circulating in there, make sure that you are sharing the show, whether you are live with us on YouTube, you're listening on Twitch, or you are on Facebook. Make sure to share that to your favorite Titans group, and we'll continue to talk about the biggest draft needs in the second round for the Tennessee Titans. And I'm going to go to the chat right now, Easton, because it's pretty large majority, I would say, so far. NM Titan says wide receiver. Andre says wide receiver. We have Daniel who says edge, of course, but then we have another wide receiver for Eric, another wide receiver from Ashley. We have wide receiver from Scott. Whatever is best player available is the answer from Corey. We have Steven who says wide receiver, no doubt. David says wide receiver. Titan Overdrive says wide receiver. We have another wide receiver from Tall Texan.
That's a lot of receiver in there, man. It's a lot of receiver.
A lot of receiver, man. A lot of receiver. Jeff Rubel says wide receiver. Wide receiver from Vanessa. We have an edge at 35 for Traven. We have Rhino who says edge. Wide receiver from Ed. We have an edge unless linebacker 3 is up from Kyle Wood at 35. Okay. We have, it's a little bit.
Who do we think he's talking about there? Who's this linebacker 3?
Linebacker 3.
Is that really a consensus thing?
No, it's not a consensus thing. I mean, I think most people think that Jihad Campbell is going to be the first guy and probably the top 20 picks. After that, it's like, I'm like a big Demetrius Knight fan, but that's too rich for my blood. Chris Paul, I think.
Is he talking about Schlesinger? But I don't know who's. I mean, Schlesinger's like consensus 2, I would imagine. So
yeah, probably the second take.
So who's he talking about?
I don't
Danny
know.
Stutzman.
Oh no, don't do that.
Barrett Carter.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to
me. Jeffrey Bassa. I don't know. I mean, like, okay, but yeah,
I'm actually very curious now.
Yeah, are you talking? He's got to be talking about Demetrius Knight. Like, I don't know who else he's talking about.
I love Demetrius Knight, but I wouldn't take him to 35 either.
No,
I love Demetrius Knight. But from the chat, there was a lot of edge, but I would say if I had to just put an estimate on it, I would say like 70-something% said wide receiver, and a lot of them said wide receiver easily. Like that seemed kind of more of the consensus in this conversation, or the majority, I should say.
Ryan, what's your answer to this question? Talk me through your thought process here.
I'm also wide receiver, and I think it mostly is based upon how you laid out the conversation, right? Edge, while there's no difference makers in that room, when you have a Draymond Jones that can do outside and inside on obvious best situations, when you have an Arden Key, they at least have a decent floor as a edge group, right? Like, again, no superstars, no super difference makers, but solid football players, right? Who can play on the NFL level and contribute on the NFL level. Wide receiver right now, outside of Calvin Ridley, is like, brother, what are we doing here? Like, who is Cam Ward throwing the football to if he is the number 1 overall draft pick? And obviously we expect him to be the number 1 overall draft pick. Wide receiver is the biggest need for me because when I look at it, and you laid out something else that I think is key. While wide receiver is not as bad a class as some people initially anticipated or thought that it would be, it's still not as good a class or as deep a class as the edge group, right? Like there is more quality throughout the draft at edge than there is at wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you couple the scarcity, for the lack of a better word, of wide receiver talent comparative to the edge group, and then on top of it, the fact that the wide receiver group is so just depleted of talent and hungry for talent on this roster. I think 35 needs to be a wide receiver right now, depending on how the board falls.
Interesting. Let's look at the board and the possibilities here, because I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat talking about, it just depends on who's there. That's the real question here, and I think that's fair. Looking at the receiver board as I'm pulling it up here, it's a pretty simple situation. We are expecting Tet McMillan, Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, and of course,
Matthew Golden. Did you say Matthew Golden?
No, I said Matthew Golden. I thought I was. Oh, I am Travis Hunter. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, Travis Hunter. Yeah. If we're going to include him in the receiver position, those 4 guys are going to be going in the first round. I will be floored if any of them make it out of the first round. I think that it may be those 4, and it may be a surprise 5th, because it feels like every year, Ryan, we're talking about which, what's the line for first round receiver? Who's going to make it in? Who's going to make it out? And we always get a bonus receiver of some sort, right? Like last year, we were talking about, are the Texas guys going to get in? And you had Xavier Worthy as the 5th receiver off the board in the first round, and he was the 5th of 7 guys, right? You also had who else went? Leggett went at the very end, and
Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, Ricky went. Yep. So both of those guys snuck in there. So you usually get guys sneaking into the first round just because of the nature of the position. I think this is a position that's particularly prone to runs, and we've seen that year after year of one guy goes and teams start to get panicky, and they maybe even move up to get their guy receiver, and they go off in a hurry. Luther Burden's the big question mark here, and on the consensus board, he's ranked 30th. We know the deal on him. I wrote an article about him that I recommend folks go check out on A2Zsports.com earlier this week about what I know regarding his draft stock and how it's just a strange situation. The biggest reason why he is falling, he's a guy that on most folks' big boards, he's a top 15, top 10 talent. And yet every national mock is leaving him out of the first round. You go look at Daniel Jeremiah, Dan Brugler, Mel Kiper, all of these guys that you expect to have the most comprehensive national information. They're all not just right now leaving him out, but they've been consistently for the past month or so leaving him out of the first round, despite talking highly of him. And the reason is because, and I've done some digging on this myself, the league is just, they have teams across the board have questions. They have questions for him about the drop off in play from his junior to his senior year. They have some questions about the details on the whiteboard, maybe is the way I should put it. There's just some uncertainty there. And that's the reason why you're seeing, mock drafts with Luther Burden going to the Titans at 35. How could that happen? What a steal. What an unbelievable pick. If that were to happen, and I wrote in the article, Ryan, about how I think because of those questions and because some of the digging I've done, it wouldn't shock me if he was there at 35 and the Titans didn't take him and the Titans passed on him for an edge player. That we'll talk about the options at edge here in a minute. But if that were to happen, what would your reaction be? And I guess what's your general opinion on Bird? Because just as an evaluator from the tape, what's your opinion of him? I'd imagine you think he's a first round talent.
He's the top receiver in the class in my
opinion. Okay, well there you go.
And he still has been for a while. I've talked about Tet. I mean, and Tet's not even in this conversation because he's not going to be in the range of 35, obviously. But I do prefer Burden's play style in today's game comparative to what Tet's is, just based upon the ability to create separation in multiple ways. And I think Burden has that both as a explosive athlete and also as the ability to be a route runner on the next level and to win after the catch. I like him a lot. I do think when you talk about the drop-off, I thought the film was a lot better than what the production was this year. There were a lot of things around him that weren't great. One, outside of the right tackle, Armin Menbal, that we'll talk about a ton throughout this process. I think the offensive line took a step back in 2024. I think the quarterback play took a step back in 2024. I think the offense in general took a step back, and also Burden was a little bit banged up, especially during the former part of the season, a little bit earlier in the year. So I think he's a much better player than he's being billed as right now. But if there are those types of concerns that are going to move him down the board, when I look at it, Easton, I'm like, what is a quarterback's best friend? And when we say that, usually people usually say two things, right? They'll say a good run game, sure, or they'll say a big body tight ends because it's a comforting, position, a easy box out guy,
security
those types of
blanket.
things.
Yeah,
exactly. I would also argue that a quarterback's best friend is these types of dynamic slot receivers that can make things happen after the catch, because a 4-yard pass can turn into a 15, 20-yard play in an instant, in a blink of an eye. And you don't have to do much, right? Like a quarterback just needs to hit an on target, short underneath ball, whether it's a short crosser, RPO glance, like whatever it is. And this type of player has a chance to create a big play off of a very short, opportunity. So if Luther Burden is there, I think it's an easy pick. I really do. I think it's a very easy pick because I think ultimately when you look at Calvin Ridley can do a lot of different things for an offense. He's a very good route runner. He's explosive. He can win more vertically. Have a guy that I think can create something out of nothing, shorts, and create big chunk plays after the catch. That's something that the Titans just don't have on this roster at all, man. So if he's at 35, I think that would be a tremendous selection because I think that he fits exactly what the Titans need, not only upgrading wide receiver outside of Ridley, but also finding a type of receiver that they do not have on the roster.
Well, yes. To be fair, most types of receiver they don't have on the roster right now because they really only have one type of receiver on the roster right now, and his name is Calvin Ridley.
I'm literally going to bring up a wide receiver in a couple of minutes that is another guy that they don't have on the roster, but for a completely different reason. So yes, you are correct. This wide receiver unit needs a lot, to say the least.
Yeah, 100%. As Corey says here in the comments, everyone going to punch air when Burden is there at 35 and we trade back or draft an edge. I'm with you that if he's there at 35 for them, which let me ask you this: what are you buying this slide that we're seeing, or are you expecting him to end up being a first-round receiver? What does your gut tell you right now?
It's such a tough question. I think a couple of the positional runs matter in this conversation, right? Do we get a third quarterback in the first rounds? Is there a late round run on the offensive tackles like we think that there might be, like the Connerlys of the world, that type? I think that really is dependent on it. If I had to bet, I would say that Burden still finds a spot in the late first rounds, but I do buy the slide comparative to, it was only a few weeks ago that a lot of people were still mocking him in the top 20, right? So I'm buying the slide. I don't know if I'm buying the drastic slide that some people are putting out there, because again, in the vacuum, this kid's one of the more talented players in this class overall. So a slide could happen, but I don't think it's going to be a biggest slide. Because, let's be honest. There are some players in this draft that are sliding, quote unquote, because they have some extreme character issues, right? Or some legality issues. Like there's some stuff out there right now in the universe. Luther Burden's issues, from what I've gathered, and it sounds from what you've gathered, it's not like the most heinous things of all time, right? Where you're like, oh man, that guy is a terrible person and he's a bad teammate and all this. Like that stuff isn't out there necessarily. It's just about the technical issues of playing receiver and how quickly he learns, processes things, like that type of stuff. And if we can fix that, right? He's 20 years old. He's good. I may have just turned 21 years old. So he's a younger guy. We can fix some of those things. I buy the slide slightly, but I don't buy the drastic slide.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if I had to bet, he's likely to be gone by 35, but I'm also, I don't feel as strongly about it to say that he won't be there at 35. Maybe it's a 70-30 chance that he's gone. But in that 30% outcome, I do think there's a world in which he's there at 35 and the Titans pass. Now, it's an interesting question when you consider the Titans' leadership right now, because this is a team that has, they have said that they're interested in high character guys, and Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi are looking for guys that are reliable, dependable, good locker room guys, of course, because every team says that. But when you look at the track record in Kansas City, where Mike Borgonzi is coming from, Kansas City doesn't care at all about, they care about talent. They have cared about talent above character for some time now, and it has resulted in there being some real characters on their team that they've been fine to deal with. You know what I mean? Like they have overlooked some questionable locker room guys, questionable character guys, and I'm not saying that's what necessarily Luther Burden is, because I don't know that firsthand, because I've not met the guy. But if they believe that were to be the case on Burden, I'm not sure that would be disqualifying for them. I honestly think the thing more likely to keep them from going Burden at 35 if he were to be there is the fact that they do need edge so bad. And the fact that I think that if they had to pick one of those positions to be a little deficient at this season, edge or receiver, I think they would lean, let's be a little bit thin at receiver and figure that out later.
Okay. Is that a positional value conversation as far as how to build a roster correctly? Like,
I think
why
so.
is that
Yes.
their approach? Okay.
Yeah. I think everything they've said on and off the record, their actions this offseason, I think that they are tilted on, hey, this is a multi-year rebuild and we're going to start by building out the trenches. And so, and that's, you got to respect that. That makes sense. That's fair enough. So while you can definitely argue, hey, but having a good receiver situation for your young rookie quarterback is also a good thing to have. Totally. But if you're having to make that difficult choice between the two, which they kind of are, I think they would lean edge. I think they would. And it all depends on how, specific guys, who's there and who's not. So let's talk about the edge guys that could be there at 35 real quick. Sure. And this is a longer list, right? Because I guess the last thing I should say on the receiver position at 35 is, unless Luther Burden is there, I don't see them going receiver. I don't see them taking Ella Umanor at 35. I don't see them taking Trey Harris or Jaden Higgins or Jack Betch at 35. All of those guys are later day 2 guys. And I think because of the talent at edge you're going to have available to you there, no matter what, essentially, would you be surprised if they went and got one of those guys at 35? I don't think that's happening.
Probably the only one that stood out was Trey Harris. And it's because he brings something, and I know, they need a lot at wide receiver, but they also,
when you know me, I'm an Ole Miss helmet scout, so I'm already out on Trey Harris. I'm out. I can't do it.
They just need some size outside that can be impactful, right? And he's a bigger body, strong dude, improved route runner this year, but incredible at the tracking the football down the field, good in catch point situations, and he was better after the catch this year than he had been previously as well. So just an interesting guy to keep an eye on, depending on, because the thing is, though, is what if there's an edge run and a wide receiver run at the end of the first round? Like, anything's possible, you know what I mean? And
sure,
maybe there's a few offensive tackles on the board, and you kind of go like, maybe was Dan Moore really the right decision here? Maybe we should have waited on offensive tackle.
All right, I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening. I don't think they like this tackle class like that. As Elks says, super chat here, Titans wide receiver room is on par or worse than a G5 school. A little bit of an exaggeration, but it certainly feels that way right now. 100%.
Yep.
So let's look at these edge guys. To me, there are 5 edge players that will not be available at 35 because they're going to be in the first round. These 5 guys for me are lock first rounders, and that's Abdul Carter, obviously, the Georgia kids, Jalen Walker and Micah Williams, Shamar Stewart out of A&M, and Mike Green out of Marshall. I know some people think Mike Green might could fall, talking about more potential character concerns in that regard.
Yeah,
I don't think that's happening at all. I think he'll probably be gone in the teens, let alone the 20s or 30s. And then you get to a crop of guys who, there's one more guy kind of on the fringe for me that, is James Pierce. The situation there is just so hard to pin down. And talk about a guy that is a, top 15, top 10 talent, but just the smoke is there in a way that makes it hard to know exactly where he's going to go. Would you be shocked if James Pierce was somehow available at 35?
I wouldn't be shocked. No, there's a lot there. There's a lot
more
there.
likely to be there at 35. Yeah. James Pierce or Luther Burden?
I think Luther Burden, actually, out of those two, I would say. Yeah. But
how does Pierce get past like the Chiefs and the Eagles?
I tend to think that a team, and you already mentioned this kind of a little bit, I think a team with a good infrastructure that trusts their room, right, to be able to handle some of those guys that are perceived character concerns, I do think that they'll still take a chance on James Pierce Jr. in the late first round. Like, I would be surprised if he got the 35, but I wouldn't be shocked is how I would kind of phrase it, right? Like, because there's a lot of smoke there. It's not just, one team or a couple teams that are saying stuff. Like, there's a lot of people that are just kind of questioning the want to and the lock in, like, for lack of a better word. Like, they want to know if this guy wants to be great or even really good, because 2023 was very good. 2024 was still good, but it
Mhm.
wasn't the jump that people hoped for. They were like, man, I thought that like if you would have told me before the season, I was like, James Pierce Jr. is going to be a top 10 pick. And not much could have changed my mind because that kid is bendy. He's
Mhm.
explosive. He's productive. He's talented. There's so much there. But I
The
do think that there
analytical
were some
profile is
concerns.
pretty ridiculous. Yeah,
Oh, it is.
it's
I mean, how many? There's not many guys on earth that are 6'5" plus, 240 something pounds, almost 250, and run 4.47. Like there just isn't that many dudes that are like that, man. He's an absolute freak show, and if he's locked in, he's going to end up being a top 10 player in this class when all is said and done, in my opinion. Like he's going to be that type of guy. So there's going to be value here. I don't think it's incredibly likely he's there at 35, but again, like nothing is impossible just based upon some things that I've heard as well.
As Brad says, James Pierce and the Eagles have been destined for some time. This is true. James Pierce has been an Eagle now for at least a month. So
Yes,
just get ready to be mad about that. So let's run down these guys that might be there at 35. We'll include James Pierce in that conversation just because it's so hard to say. But let's do it with the caveat that we don't really expect him to be there at 35. We just won't be shocked if he's there at 35. The guys that I think are likely, of these 5 guys I'm going to list, I would expect at least 4 of them to be there at 35. Let's put it that way. Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College, Nick Scorton out of A&M, Landon Jackson out of Arkansas, Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, who we'll talk about, and Princely Umanmielen out of Ole Miss. Those are the next couple guys on the consensus board, ranked between 32 and 53. You can even let's include both Ohio State guys, make it 6. JT Tuimoloau. How do you say his name? JT what?
Tuimoloau, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Tuimoloau. That is not fun to say. At 59 on the consensus board. So those are the guys kind of in that next tier. And so if those are our options, I'll read them off one more time before we turn to the chat here. James Pierce, Donovan Ezeraku, Nick Scorton, Landon Jackson, Jack Sawyer, Princely Umanmielen, and JT Tuimoloau. JT out of Ohio State. I'm not going to. JTT. Yep. That's right. JTT. If those are the options, I'd like to hear from the chat. Who would you most prefer if you had to pick an edge at 35 for the Titans? And you know what? We're taking James Pierce out of this because knowing this chat, they'll just all say James Pierce. Not an option. I've decided. Executive decision. James Pierce, not an option.
The Tennessee fandom, yes, that would tilt it in a
not James Pierce. So Ezeraku, Scorton, Jackson, Sawyer, Umanmielen, and JTT. Those are your options. Who do you lean if you got to take an edge at 35? Think about that. We're going to send that question in the chat here real quick. Which edge? I should have had this typed out, but I didn't. So which edge should the Titans take at 35 overall? And send. Let's hear your thoughts in the chat. Ryan, be thinking about your answer to this question while I tell all of our friends about, pause for effect, there it is, our friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law. We love Bart Durham Injury Law here on the A to Z Morning Show. Our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law believe that a crash can change your life forever and help us only a click away at bartdurham.com. Your big truck wreck is our fight for justice. A crash can change your life forever, and Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help change your life, only a phone call away. You can reach the Bart Durham team 24/7 to get your legal questions answered at 615-242-9000. They believe that you deserve to be paid. Attorneys are available to meet with you wherever is most convenient, including virtually. Visit their website at bartdurham.com for current news, blogs, and to contact or live chat with them. They've been in business since 1975, so they have 50 years of experience dealing with all kinds of automobile accidents. Located in Capitol View, Nashville. They're local, but they can fight for anybody in Kentucky or Tennessee that's been in an auto accident. Led by Blair Durham, a great Tennessean, a Marine veteran, doing it the right way over there at the Bart Durham Injury Law Center. Check them out, bartdurham.com.
Speaking of one click away, give us a quick like on the show. You can use your clicker or your hands to go down and hit that like button. Make sure that this is the most liked show in A to Z sports history. You can also share the show to any and all of your favorite social media platforms. Get the word out today that we are talking edge position, the 35 overall selection, and hopefully taking this Tennessee Titans defensive line to a whole other level with the interior that they've already created.
So I'm going to turn you to the comments here, Ryan. Who is the chat's choice for edge at 35?
It's a little split, honestly. There's a lot of different names in the chat. So we have Daniel with Princely Uman Mielen. We have Jack Sawyer from Orlando Jones.
Okay.
Donovan Ezeraku easily from Raz _ Biggie. We got JTT from Bustin Diamond. We have Princely again from Princely or Ezeraku from Caps. We have without a doubt Jack Sawyer from Brandon Orton. Without a doubt. David Brown, it's JT, not JTT. JT Toy Malawa. I mean, I understand, but yeah, okay. Traven says James Pierce or Jack Sawyer. I'm sorry, I got distracted there for a second. Right. Drayden says Sawyer. We have an Ezeraku from hashtag. We have Nick Skorton for the first time from Joe Blacko. We got Princely from Corey. We have from Raz, we said, nah, give me Ezeraku. We have Ezeraku again from Titans. So as we get further down, it seems like a lot of Ezeraku in here. Landon Jackson comes back with Jake Hughes. We have from JD3, Ezeraku had 16.5 sacks last year. That's a first rounder. Don't agree. Sawyer, 100 from Anthony Hill. We have Skorton from Darius Horton. Princely Big Time from Steven. Kyle Kennard comes into the conversation here from Brian. Landon Jackson from Christofero, excuse me if I mispronounced that name. Without question, Jack Sawyer from Andrew Brown. So, man, Skorton comes in here as well. Skorton is better than Shamar Stewart, Joe says in the chat as well. We have Jack Sawyer again. I think Orlando already voted, didn't he?
He did. The Sawyer answers are kind of crazy to me.
A lot of Ezeraku, though. A lot of Ezeraku, a little bit of Landon Jackson, a little bit of Nick Skorton. But I would say we saw the majority, were Ezeraku and Jack Sawyer at 35. It appeared.
Interesting. Ryan, what is your opinion on this? No. And would you like to address the Jack Sawyer of it all?
I can address the Jack Sawyer of it all. Actually, I would like to give my answer first, though, to be on a positive note before we go negative here, though. Okay, so
that's fine.
My guy would be. I like Nick Skorton. I think that so. When he was at Purdue, he was dominant, absolutely dominant. Mm-hmm. He transferred over to Texas A&M, and he was still good this year. But I think Texas A&M did him a disservice. He played at about 260, 265.
They made him get fat. Yeah,
they made him get really fat, dude.
He looked lumpy in that uniform, man.
It was so bad. He was like 265 at Purdue, 260, 265. And then for whatever reason, they're like, we're bulking you up to 280. Like, okay, why did that happen? So he didn't look quite as fit and as explosive as he did previously. But the good thing is that at the combine, we saw him down to 257 pounds. So that bad weight is now off that frame. I think if that bad weight was never put on that frame, he would be an easy first round conversation. I think he would have been a top 20 pick potentially if his body was fit and he was the explosive athlete we saw in 2023. So my vote would go for Nick Skorton out of this. Moving over to Jack Sawyer, Easton. There's a running joke in the NFL draft land about when you ask someone, hey, what's that guy do really well as a player? And the first 3 to 4 things are intangibles and not tangibles, right? So they go, oh man, great leader, plays super hard. And I'm like, guys, at some point we need to get to, can he bend? Does he have a really dynamite first step? Does he have great closing speed? I don't hate Jack Sawyer as a football player. I think that he has a role on the NFL level. I don't love Jack Sawyer as a football player though either. I think he has a role in the NFL. He is a rotational defensive end, in my opinion, that will be very good against the run and will play very hard. But I am not picking that player at 35. I don't think that he has much upside as a pass rusher at all. I think he's very stiff as a rusher. He's a good rotational player, in my opinion, but as a top 40 selection, hard pass. Hard pass for me.
Over under career sacks for Jack Sawyer, 20?
35 and a half. I'll give him a little bit more. Let's say 35.
Oh, okay. That's he's going to have a long career because he's not getting 10 in a season.
8-year career and 35 and a half sacks, man.
Sure. A couple cleanup sacks in there. I like that. Somebody running around with the ball for 6 seconds in the backfield. Yeah.
Well, in this scenario, if they drafted him, at least it wouldn't be Cam Ward running around for 6 seconds. You know, the time to throw would be
but then the Titans would have no pass rush, so that would be bad.
But have a great leader though, man. Great leader.
Sure. Oh yeah, huge locker room bonus, whatever that means. For me, the answers are Like I think there are options here. Like I think Scorton is a perfectly solid. Like I'd be happy with that choice. I think Ezaraku out of Boston College would be a great choice as well. Who it's funny, he comes. He's a edge rusher out of Boston College, just like Harold Landry was. So they'd be replacing a BC guy with a BC guy, which would be kind of fitting. I wouldn't be upset with Ezaraku. I wouldn't be upset with Landon Jackson, who has a lower ceiling than some of these other guys, I think, but his floor is really high to me. I think that he's going to be a really useful player, and he's well-rounded. Like he's somebody that it's hard to say like what's his elite trait, what's he awesome at. I'm not sure.
Jump. Elite
yes,
jump.
he will jump out of the gym. Maybe he can jump over the line. But other than that, he's like a B+ at everything. So I wouldn't hate Landon Jackson. And I've been talking about Princely Umanmielen as kind of my guy for a while. I wouldn't be, that's kind of the one that maybe some folks would see as a reach. To me, I would understand that selection at 35. My point being, whether it's Ezaraku or Scorton or Jackson or Umanmielen, I'm not crazy about the Ohio State guys personally. I think that they have options here where all four of those guys in a lesser draft class would probably be, back half of the first round guys. Like these are borderline first round talents at a position that tends to get overdrafted a little bit. And I think you see this caliber of player go in the late 20s, early 30s pretty often. And this year, it just so happens that the class is so great. There are 5 or 6 guys that are going to go ahead of them at the position. And I think the Titans front office are going to see it that way, identify that and say, hey, we're getting, a bargain on one of these guys at 35, and we need this position very badly, and it's going to help us build through the trenches. And this, whoever we pick is, could be our 1 or our 2 and start right away. That's a big deal for us. We'd like to have that. And so that's why ultimately I think that's probably where they go and why they do it. And I think it would be hard for them if you told me they went edge at 35, to me, it would be hard for them to really screw up that pick because I think they have a lot of good options. I have preferences, but I don't see many bad options here besides Jack Sawyer, which I don't think they would be dumb enough to do.
I hope they draft Landon Jackson just so the video can resurface of him in high school when he was hitting the bags. You know that video that I'm talking about?
No, I don't think so.
There is a hilarious video of when Landon Jackson was in high school. He was at like a Under Armour camp or one of the major platform camps, and he clearly did not know how to go through a bag drill. So he was just like melee on bags. It was so stiff and hilarious. You need
He's
to
just freestyling it. I like that.
It is the most hilarious bit. I hope people in the chat have seen this at some point. It is the most hilarious video of all time.
I'm gonna go find it.
Yeah, I think someone said he's come a long way, and that's the first thing I thought of because I'm just like, yeah, man, he's come a long way since that Under Armour camp or 247 camp, whatever the heck it was.
If the Titans draft him, if they draft him and at OTAs he's hitting the bags, I'll probably do an overlay of I'll go find that video. We'll splice them together and get a pro to high school comparison there.
I just want the Tennessee Titans to tweet out that video if they draft him and be like, "We got our guy," and just him like.
That's the first introduction to fans. Like, who is this guy? And they post that high school video of him not knowing how to run a bag drill.
As a society, we need to be able to laugh, and that is a great laugh. Okay, we need to laugh a little bit more. It was the funniest video of all time. But
fair enough.
Landon's an interesting player because he's a little stiff as a player, as a rusher, but he is long and he's very explosive, right? And he's played all over the place for Arkansas. Like they played him at different alignments too. And I know that obviously Tennessee wants to run a little bit of 3-man front stuff. So I do think that will allow him to be able to be utilized in multiple ways, potentially for a defense. But yeah, so I don't think that's a bad. Ezaraku is really interesting because he's a shorter player, but he's got really long arms. So he plays like with a low center of gravity, but he's able to play outside of his frame a ton, which is super interesting. But man, I'm just loving, I'm in love with Nick Skurton potentially at 35. I think that would be again, if you have the best version of him and he's in good shape and the shape that he was previously, I think that kid is a very good value.
Sorry, I found the video.
Yes. Oh, you found it? It's great.
Somebody spliced his combine bag drill with the high school video. Yeah, I mean somebody in the chat say sassy. That is sassy.
People let that kid have it, man, because he was like I think he was rated as a 5-star at that point, and they're like, "There's no way this kid's a 5-star. Like, there's zero chance this kid's a 5-star." It was hilarious.
He looks. I mean, he is just open hands smacking the fool out of these bags like
Yes.
he, he's in a soap opera and just found out that he's been cheated on.
It's like he never did the drill before, right? So he's just like he thinks the point of the drill is to try to hit the bag as hard as he possibly can and not actually, utilize his.
Do you think they made him go first? Like nobody ahead of him, he couldn't monkey see, monkey do it. Like
either that or he was just young and didn't understand how his body worked yet. I mean, like in high school, just some guys just fundamentally don't know how their body movement skills are supposed to be.
Because he's a huge high school. Like he looks overdeveloped he looks like an NFL body in this video, but he looks like he has no idea how to use his arms or legs.
Man,
that's good. Now I hope they draft him.
Someone said he what. I think Curtis said, nah, he wasn't first. He had time.
That's tough. That's tough. If like 4 people went ahead of you, you watch them do it. You're like, okay, I get it. And then you do that. That's tough. Tall Texan says it was a bit. He lost a bet and had to do it as feminine as possible. I like that. I like that idea. That'd be funny.
I wonder if that's true. It's hilarious if it was true.
I don't think it's true. I think that's just how he was. I think that fits. Okay, we're going to get to some sports trivia here in a quick second. But Ryan, you and I are going to real quick just talk about for the next 10 minutes or so going through some day 3 guys because they can't get both of these positions at 35, right? And to me, based on what I know, just based on the dynamics of it all, I would say, I'm putting my reporter hat on real quick, I would say it is much more likely that the Titans go edge at 35 than receiver. Well, it all depends on who falls where. Like, there may be one receiver that they're saying, if this guy's there for some reason, maybe it's Luther Burden. If this guy's there, we'll change our plan. But other than that, my understanding is that it's likely to be edge for all the reasons we laid out. So if that's the case, the Titans are going to have to hit on. They're drafting a receiver. Another reporter hat moment here. They're going to draft a receiver or two. They have to. And that's going to come on day 3. They have a pair of 4ths, a 5th, a pair of 6ths. And so let's just pull up the board, Ryan. I think the best way to do this is just pull up the board, look at some guys in that range. Their first pick on day 3 is 10. I think it's 103 now. It was 102. It changed when the compensatory picks came out. So if I told you the Titans need to find some impact at the receiver position at the top of day 3, who are some of the top names stick out to you?
So I think the Maryland duo is a couple guys that I've talked about in the past. It's going to be close, but if
Ty Felton and Caden Prather,
if Felton is going to be, it's going to be close if he's available. I think he could go back in top 100, but he is a young man that is 4.4 flats or better. I think he ran 4.38, I think, at the combine, if I remember correctly. So he's got some vertical speed. If you want a guy that can just kind of take the top off, he has some route running upside as well, although Maryland kind of utilized him more as a vertical yak guy in college. So it was a little bit of a simplistic route tree. But if you want a guy with a little bit of speed, I think Tay Felton is a guy that is very interesting. Did I say bless you, by the way? I feel really
I've sneezed like 7 times with you on. It's okay. You've said it at some point to me. I think before we started the show. I'm alert. I think my allergies are starting to kick in this morning. It's tough.
It stinks. Yeah, as the weather changes a little bit. The other Maryland receiver, though, is Caden Prather, who I like a lot. And at 103, I would be okay with it, even though some people probably say it's a little bit early. He's a height, weight, speed dude. Ran 4.46 at the combine at 6'3", 210 plus pounds. He can run, and he's got route running upside as well. Didn't take the jump I wanted in 2024 compared to 2023, but I think their tools are all there. And the last guy I'll throw out, and then I'll talk about a couple guys a little bit later down the board. Kyle Williams, I think, out of Washington State's been a little bit of a late riser in this class. He's a little bit of an undersized guy, but he's a yak dude who ran 4.4 flat at the combine as well, so he's got a little bit of juice after the catch. So 3 different players, 3 different play styles. It really depends on if the Titans want to dip there at 103, what kind of style they're looking for at wide receiver.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't have to be 103, right? It can be 103. It can be their second, 4th round pick, 5th round pick. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it's any of these mid rounds that they end up going receiver. Before I talk about some guys that I'm expecting to be available on day 3, let's take a look at guys that could be. There's always a slider or two. And at the back end of the day 2 projections here, just looking at the consensus draft board, you've got guys like Xavier Restrepo out of Miami, Savion Williams, so you and I have talked about loving out of TCU, Tez Johnson, the 120-pound miracle out of Oregon, These are the guys that may, that I would say are likely to be day 2 picks. But I wouldn't be shocked if somebody that we even maybe throw Isaiah Bond in there, Jalen Noel. Like, you never know. One of these guys that we expect to be a day 2 pick, Jalen Royals.
I don't want to cut you off, but I think Isaiah Bond is a sneaky dude that could continue to fall down boards a little bit. So
you think so?
Interesting one.
Okay, yeah. And he's somebody that that's a real pedigree. That expectations coming in, at least to last season, were much higher than that. And so there's ability there, and I think that there are some extenuating circumstances from his year last year that maybe some teams could use to explain away some of the deficiencies. All of that being said, if one of those guys falls to 102, if a Bond or a Restrepo or a Royals, Noel, Williams, Johnson, if one of those guys is there at 102, 103, that's your pick for me. Like, I think that you are hoping that somebody that you have as a day 2 grade slips to the top of day 3, and that's who you kind of steal. If that doesn't happen, a couple of names stick out to me. I think Torrey Horton is somebody that's on their radar out of Colorado State. Mm-hmm. Pat Bryant out of Illinois is somebody that's on their radar. Bryant's funny to me. I think his median outcome is like NWI, like just another similar. NWI. They are similar. I think his ceiling outcome is like Corey Davis, another Titans legend, like just like boring, big, fast, reliable hands guy who, is never going to be, he's always going to kind of be a saltine cracker of your offense where it's like never deeply inspiring, but just useful. And you don't mind having him around. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's on the radar. A fan favorite would be Dante Thornton out of Tennessee, who talked about a height, weight, speed guy. There's a height, weight, speed guy.
I had him on my list. Dante Thornton. Yep.
Fast player. Looking further down the list, if let's say they go 5th, 6th, 7th round guys, they take a flyer on. To me, let me run this take by you. Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech. I think, and I tweeted this the other day, I think Jalen Lane is this year's Malik Washington. They're first of all, both come from Virginia schools. They are similar height, weight, speed guys, similar play style guys. I think you maybe could argue Lane is a tad more explosive than Washington was, but they're both relatively explosive little speedy players.
Yeah.
And I think they're both, by the time the draft rolls around, going to be draft media darlings as like day 3, like, ooh, yeah, go get this guy. And we'll all be thinking about him as like a 4th or 5th round pick. And then they'll slip to, I think Washington went in the late 6th last year to the Dolphins. Everybody's like, what the heck? The Titans are on the board and you have Malik Washington on the board in the mid 6th. And they ended up taking, who did they end up taking at that spot? Somebody that was really frustrating. What?
I was going to say forgettable, obviously.
Yes. Who was it? I'll go back and look. Chat, who did the Titans take in the 6th? Which of the guys did they take in the 6th? But whoever it was, I remember being very frustrated that Malik Washington. No, it wasn't Williams. He was a 7th round pick.
I could look it up.
It's killing me that I'm blanking on who this was. Oh, it was Jaquan Jackson. It was Jaquan, another receiver. It was they go receiver. And we're like, yes, receiver at whatever 203 or whatever it was. And then it was who out of where? Tulane, Jaquan Jackson, when you had Malik Washington right there on the board. That was very frustrating. So I think that Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech, who I like, and I think is one of the more explosive separator capable players in this class, is there's just something about this kind of player that I think draft media is way more inclined to fall in love with than actual teams for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't see this player as pragmatic. Maybe they see them as more fun on paper than in reality, which may be true. But does that spiritually feels right to me? That Jalen Lane will be like kind of a draft darling day 3 and fall and end up being a Dolphin or some stereotypical team player.
I love Jalen Noel in this class. And for me, Lane is Jalen Noel, but like 3 rounds later. Similar players, right?
Yes.
Not as good, obviously, or else he would be going 3 rounds earlier, but he's a similar type of player. A little bit of a squattier frame, but like kind of dense for his size, right? But really explosive, mostly going to play inside, but can give you some stuff after the catch and kind of be a little bit of a sneaky player in that regard. So he's an interesting player. I had him on my list as well. I had Dante Thornton. I had Jalen Lane. I had Brew McCoy from Tennessee, who I think is going to fall down a little bit because he has a lot of medicals in his past. So I imagine he's going to be a day 3 flyer for a team. But he's a really big-bodied, savvy route runner type of kid for his size. So I think he's an interesting player, maybe in like the 6th round, 5th, 6th round, somewhere in that ballpark. And last one I had was someone that I was really excited about going into 2024, but he did not live up to expectations. If you watched Houston in 2023, if I asked you who's the best receiver on Houston, you probably would have said Samuel Brown. You wouldn't have said Matthew Golden at that point. And when Samuel Brown went to Miami, everyone's kind of like, that's Cam Ward's number 1 guy. Well, it wasn't Cam Ward's at number 1 guy. It ended up only being like his 2nd or 3rd leading receiver on the team. He's springy and explosive, but his play strength stinks. Like, it's just really bad, and it showcased itself in 2024. If you can get him into a good nutrition department, strength and conditioning departments, and continue to build out his body a little bit.
Get this guy some creatine. Come on, folks.
He needs something, man. He just cannot play through contact right now, but he has the athleticism to be a guy on the NFL level. I think just developmentally, this kid needs to get stronger and needs to get coached up a little bit. So day 3 flyer, maybe a Sam Brown, out of Miami.
Yeah, and we're hopefully folks that are listening to this are like, why are they just naming dudes? Well, because these are the guys we want these guys on your radar. Like, we want these names to be percolating in your brain as possibilities, so that over the next month, as you hear things about them, these are things these are players the Titans are likely to be interested in, and putting my reporter hat on once again. A pair of additional names to keep an eye on. Kind of random. Kymir Dyke out of Florida is somebody that I think might be on the radar. So just keep that in mind. I mean, like, as a fast, late 6th, 7th round guy, not, maybe a UDFA guy. And then somebody who, I think is a really bad player and that nobody in the NFL likes at all. And that's Isaac TeSlaa out of Arkansas. I hate Isaac TeSlaa. I think that he should fall very far. I think that he certainly shouldn't be overdrafted by a team, probably in the 5th round. He should fall to the 6th, where the Titans should take him, despite not wanting him and making all the fans mad, because he'd be a bad player for the Titans to get in the 6th round. So I hate
he would not be a good special teamer either. He would be a horrible special teamer. He's just
I hear he's a terrible locker room guy too. So leave Isaac TeSlaa alone if you are any of the NFL front offices that aren't the Titans. Okay. So those are the names to keep an eye on in the 7th round. Are there any, just real quick, are there any edge guys on day 3 that really stick out to you? Maybe a name or two that could be there in the 4th or 5th?
Yeah, I think David Walker out of Central Arkansas is my guy. He's a shorter guy, doesn't have great length, but he's super explosive.
You think he'll be a day 3 guy, though?
I mean, I would take him top 100, but like some people will look at the arm length and the height and they'll be like, that's an outlier. And I get it, but like he tested so well and he's so productive. Like, I just don't care about the 31.5-inch arms. Like, I just really don't care about it. David Walker, though, if he's there in the 4th round, jump on it. Don't think twice about it. That kid is at least a dynamite designated pass rusher in the NFL level. I think a little bit further down the board, 2 guys real quick. Ethan Downs from Oklahoma. What we were talking about with Jack Sawyer. Ethan Downs is basically Jack Sawyer, except you can get him in the 6th round and he's going to do the same exact thing. Like, he's physical,
Jack Sawyer, but he's priced appropriately. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's priced out very well. And then John Joyner is my last guy out of Minnesota. He's long. He's got a good first step. He's not incredibly bendy, but he's got the height, weights, athleticism perspective stuff that you can develop as a day 3 pass rusher. He's not there yet technically, but he's a guy that does have tools that you can develop.
Sure. The 3 guys that I had down were David Walker was one, who's kind of a wish for me. Like, I'm not super enthusiastic about the possibility of him being there on day 3, but if he is,
he's so good.
David Walker at 103 might be the pick of the draft right there. I would love that. And then a couple of guys who are like, again, fallers. They're not actually falling on NFL boards, but the perception from the media sussing it out, it seems like these guys are falling down boards. Savion Jones out of LSU is somebody that I think had a higher upside and just continues to fall. And I think his analytical profile is sneaky decent. And then another one this one might be a wish as well, but man, it seems like everybody hates this guy, Jared Ivey out of Mississippi.
I love Jared Ivey.
The number 2 of the Ole Miss duo. It was Princely U and Jared Ivey, and you had both those guys at the Senior Bowl. Neither one was super impressive there. Umar Mielen's a guy, just I think traits-wise, there's a reason why he's being talked about at 35. It definitely a 2nd round, 3rd round guy. Ivey has just fallen and fallen and fallen. And what was originally a guy that was talked about being like at the round 2, round 3 turn is now on the consensus board at 114. So I don't know where he's going to go. And I'll be kind of surprised if he's there on day 3, just based on, watching him play. But if he is, I think he'd be like, at some point, the fall has to end. And it goes from being an overdraft to a value. And I think he'd be a value on day 3. I do.
I don't think he's quite as athletic as Greg Rousseau, but I think you're getting a similar style of player to Greg Rousseau, right? Like he's got kind of that longer frame, physical body. And if you remember Rousseau at Miami, like they would throw him in at inside as a rusher a ton because he's got that length and physicality. And I think that Ivey brings that to the table too. Like he's a 6'5", 275, 280-pound defensive end that's going to play base 4-3 ends, but on passing downs, I think you can move him inside. So yeah, if you get Ivey in the 4th round, I didn't even have him on the list because I still kind of think he's going to top 100, but it is going to be a borderline conversation. But I think that kid he's going to play in the NFL 8 to 10 years, and he's going to consistently be a good, solid player for you, whether as a rotational piece or as a low end starter.
I agree. All right, that's it for our conversation today. Just a heads up for tomorrow, Ryan and I, having set the table now with receiver and edge. Tomorrow's going to be a big mock draft day. We're going to do some dueling mock draft tomorrow, but it's going to be interactive. It's not going to be we prepare a mock, we write about a mock, and then bring it in like we did when Ryan and I went over my mock last week. This is going to be in the moment, in the war room, maybe like a mock trial, mock draft kind of. We're going to be doing it live, probably on the PFF simulator as we go. We're going to go through the first round and then go for a Titans 7-round mock on the back end of it. So tune into that. Be a part of that in the comment section. All we have left today, Ryan, is some sports trivia. So let's get to it. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your car buying experience over there in Lebanon, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Those are your guys that you want to include in your next car buying experience. Ryan, we didn't talk about who's going to do this. I'll go ahead and pull up the trivia real quick.
Okay.
Which, don't worry about it. Just give us a second. The dozen. If you can find the overlay for us so that we can try a little transition here.
I think I got it.
I'm
going to be Austin or Easton again, but
that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Let me share my screen. Hold that thought. All right, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Ready.
All right, hit it. Not bad. I'll be Austin, you be Easton. That's fine. All right, we've got naturally some college basketball in here on the beginning of March Madness today. Chat, we need you to lock in. Going to be hard. To beat yesterday. If you were here yesterday, you know that Sam and I went 9 for 9 in 3:30, which is outrageous. That's a crazy bar to set. We're going to see if we can beat it, but we're going to do our best. All right. So
we're trending well. Our two times ago was awful. Last time was pretty good. So now we're trending upward right now. We're trending upward.
Yeah. Let's see if we can go 4-minute flat 9 for 9. That'd be good. So yes, let's give it a try. Chat, lock in. Here we go. Starting with NFL. After playing in March Madness and having a top 10 Heisman finish as Indiana's starting quarterback, Antoine Randall L. debuted in the NFL as a wide receiver for this AFC team in 2002. Steelers. Released in 1995, the Virtual Boy was a 32-bit tabletop portable game console developed and manufactured by this company. The Virtual Boy, not the Game Boy? Or was this the precursor to the Game Boy?
Probably the precursor, I would guess. I don't remember this, though. I was only 4.
Tabletop portable video game console. Atari? Is it Atari?
Someone said. Is Lewis trustworthy? I don't know.
Atari is not even an answer.
Someone said Nintendo. Someone said Nintendo.
All right, we'll go Nintendo. Nice. I guess it was a precursor.
Good job.
The Banana Stand, the Stair Car, and Never Nude Syndrome are references to this Emmy-winning sitcom that debuted on Fox in 2003. The Banana Stand, the Stair Car, and Never Nude Syndrome. Oh, this is Arrested Development.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
A remake of a 1987 film, except with a different title. Nick Cannon and Christina Milian starred in this 2003 teen comedy.
Oh, it's Love Don't Cost a Thing, I think. Love Don't Cost a Thing.
You feel strong about that? You like it?
I feel good. All
right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Sharing the same name as a series of supernatural horror books, Travis Scott released this 16 hit song featuring Kendrick Lamar. Goosebumps? That's a series of supernatural horror books.
Do it. Just do it. Hang
on. We don't want to ruin this. Okay, Goosebumps. All right.
Someone said. Darius
Nice.
said Goosebumps.
Chain restaurants. In 21, this chain known for donuts and coffee collaborated and offered Justin Bieber inspired menu items.
Is it Dunkin' Donuts?
Is it Dunkin'? I don't remember a Dunkin' Bieber collab. Dunkin', donuts and coffee. What other donuts and coffee shops are there, though? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Chains.
Someone said Dunkin'. Someone said Dunkin'. Or Tim Hortons, someone said. But people are saying Dunkin' now.
Wait, Horton would make sense, though, because he's Canadian. Krispy Kreme? Uh-oh. Hang on.
Is it Tim Hortons? Oh, no. I don't like this.
Chat, what is it? Is it people were saying Dunkin'? Should we go Dunkin'?
You're making me second guess it now. Tim Hortons would actually make a lot of sense.
A lot of Dunkin' answers. We're sending Dunkin'.
Right.
No! This Georgia State shooting guard won the Sun Belt Player of the Year in 14 and 15 and is known for hitting a game winner to upset three-seeded Baylor in 2015 tourney.
Georgia State.
This is tough. I don't know. Sun Belt Player of the Year in 14 and 15.
Georgia State.
That last one's got to be Tim Hortons, right? It's got to be Hortons. We'll go back to Hortons. I don't know this. Chat, help us out. Who's the college basketball head? Sam would probably know this.
That's a really we were
Georgia State Sun Belt Player of the Year.
I don't know. It's not Jimmer Fredette.
No, he wasn't BYU. Georgia State.
Yeah, it was BYU. Oh no.
Anybody?
We have no
Mueller.
That's a pretty tough one, man. That's a pretty tough
Georgia State players. I mean, what known for hitting a game winner to upset 3-seeded Baylor? Okay, who? People are saying, chat. Somebody has to know. No, chat. Anybody? RJ Hunter?
RJ Hunter. Let's go. Let's go with RJ Hunter.
We're going with that because we have no other options.
Yes. All right.
Sure.
Someone Googled it, I'm sure. There we go.
141st of his career, Brett Hull scored his final NHL goal while playing for this team in 2004. 2004 hockey? Are you serious? I don't know.
I feel like it's the Bruins. Is that right?
I don't know.
It's a guess. It's
taking it.
Wait.
Nope. Okay.
Nope. Okay, we stink. All right, cool.
We stink. Is this Tommy Lee Jones?
It looks like Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah.
And famous for interesting reasons for True Detective. Very attractive young lady. Alexandra Daddario. Yeah.
Okay. So sad. It's just a sad one.
I don't know how to spell her name. Yeah, Alexandra Daddario. All right, take it on Tim Hortons here.
Tim Hortons has to be.
If it's not Tim Hortons, I have no idea. Okay, it was Tim Hortons. All right. Well, 7 for 9, 8 for 9, 448. Not our best, but it is what it is.
Literally, we did sub 4 the last time, didn't we? Did we do like 340 something last time?
It was really close to 4. I forget what.
It was close.
We were pacing really well until we got to Tim Hortons, and then it was.
Oh yeah, the first 3 or 4 were really good, and then Tim Hortons.
Yeah, we were in good shape through the first 5, and then it got tough.
Should have trusted your gut, man. Should have trusted your gut on Tim Hortons.
Well, it wasn't my gut; it was the chats. But once they said it, it made sense to me. I was like Duncan. They're the Boston guys. They're not the Bieber guys. What are we talking about here? Yeah. As Bork said, those were harder today. They were harder yesterday. Sam and I got a real gift from the trivia gods. It just worked out for us. All right. Well, Ryan and I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking some mock draft madness. So mock draft madness in between March Madness today and tomorrow. Enjoy all of the very hard work, the productivity you're going to be having today. I'm sure everybody's going to get a lot done and not watch TV all day at their work stand. So that's good. Have fun doing that. Hope your brackets don't get busted. They probably will. I'm sure tomorrow we'll be talking about what. Okay. Last thing before we go, Ryan.
Yes.
I'm pulling up the slate. What is the insane upset that's going to happen between today and tomorrow's show that we're going to have to open the show talking about? What? Let me call your shot.
I did a bracket this year. I don't always do a bracket this year. Let me look at this slate real quick. The upset that is going to happen today. Today's Thursday. Yes, go there. I don't know if this is an upset. I mean, I picked Creighton over Louisville. It's technically an upset.
No. I'm talking about earth-shattering something that happened.
VCU takes down BYU 11-5 seed. Is that better?
I like that.
Is that good?
I'll go more. I'll go more earth-shattering. I'll say we're talking about how Yale knocked off Texas A&M. As Cap says, Yale. Oh, here we go. I like this, very canoe. The local Lipscomb Bison knock off ISU. I like that. McNeese over Clemson is Eric's shot. SIU over Houston is what Lou Chesney says. That's 16-1. Lou, you can come in beating your chest tomorrow if that happens, my friend. All right, so those are our shots. We'll see. Going to be a fun day watching basketball. Until tomorrow, for Ryan Roberts, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. It's been the A to Z Morning Show. Like before you go, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel before you go. Be back here, same place, same time tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.